Hey everybody, today we're at Round Rock Cemetery, and we're at Round Rock Cemetery to see, if you've ever been around the Austin area, Sam Bass's grave. Now Sam Bass was an outlaw, a true Texas outlaw, responsible for one of actually the biggest train robberies in history from the San Francisco Mint that was coming out here. We'll get into that, but I'm going to make my way around here. He's supposed to be on the west side. This is a really old cemetery. So we're going to look from west side near the fence. So this is established in the early 1850s, is what is now known as Round Rock Cemetery, the burial ground of many area pioneers, citizens, and the oldest legible tombstone, which marks the burial of a site of 11-year-old Angeline Scott, bears the year 1851. There's a lot of unmarked graves, only 1/2 acre in the northwest part. This is what it looks like. And I think there's a historical marker out that way. This place is something. You know, the West Coast is pretty new, so the cemeteries aren't dated like this. Look at this angel. I think it's one of these obelisk. I think that's how you say it. Obelisk markers. Here's a marker of someone unknown. It's still about 45 degrees out here, but I think it's that big white one over there. One thing about Sam Bass, too, he had a treasure. And the trail of Sam Bass continues to near the state of the Capitol, where he allegedly buried $30,000 in the community of McNeil. No treasure was ever recovered. So this guy, Sam Bass, he was orphaned by his parents, raised by his abusive uncle until he was 19, and that's when he finally left and traveled all over, tried his hand at ranching and things like that, but I guess it just wasn't for him because he just couldn't make enough money. But he's always up to scheming, and this guy died at the age of only 27. We did notice this sign real quick of the Slave Cemetery. Wow, that is something interesting. Near the gravesite of outlaw Sam Bass. So Sam Bass is right here. Oh, that led us to him. 1/2 acre of old Round Rock Cemetery was set aside for slave burials, enclosed by cedar posts and barbed wire. Sites are marked head and foot with large limestone rocks. Some rocks are hand grooved with the names and dates. White graves here are dated as early as 1851. The first marked grave of a freed slave is dated 1880. Although there are 40 to 50 known burial sites of freed men, the burial ground is still in use. No internments or former slaves occurred after the turn of the century. Wow, so these rocks would be... Wow. Oh, wow, this is something to see. We'll go back to Sam Bass, but look at this thing all overgrown. You don't ever see stuff like... Look at how that's strange. This looks new. This is new, I believe. 2022. Looks like somebody just did that themselves. So a lot of these, here's part of the headstone right there. Grim Life would have a field day out here for sure. I didn't know we were going to come by here, but glad we did. Here's a rooster in the background. These were hand carved. Look at this. And even the S is backwards on here. William Avery and Maybelle Williams with the backwards S. Huh. Wow. So this whole section over here is just all for the slaves, and then you can see the regular part. They just gave that area. I've seen this before out where they put these fences around. Usually that's because you're not supposed to be buried in this area, or you committed suicide. I know that was the case with the one that I did out in Wildomar with the train guy that was having an affair, but they had the fence. I don't know if somebody else knows why the fences are here or other reasons that they have them. You can see how old this wrought iron is. Dang. Oh my gosh, that is heavy. Look at this grave. Just a bunch of rocks thrown on. Here lies Hilario Garcia, 1836 to 1888. You know, I came here to see Sam Bass real quick, and I didn't think, you know, I'd see all these other people. It's kind of interesting. This one, we'll go look at that in the Entomb one. We'll finish with Sam, and I'll get into the old Outlaw. He's got a pretty interesting story to himself as well. This one notes, infant Allie Woodward, born and died 23rd, 1881. You don't usually see that. This is the Gideons, or the Masonic style. Wow. Holy jeez, look at that one. I don't want to disturb anyone, but that's come apart. People got to be here at Halloween time, I would think, because it's pretty darn spooky. So yeah, this is actually really easy to find if you ever want to see Sam Bass. And the weird thing is, a major road out here is Sam Bass. And he was an outlaw, which is crazy. You don't think of them giving outlaws streets named after them. Whoa, look at this. The roof caved in. Wow. I think it's Fiesta Forever is what that one says. Okay, we're gonna head all the way back over there. So when you come in the cemetery, to the left by the slave cemetery is where Sam Bass is laid to rest. Okay, so we're walking back from the slave cemetery part. So Sam Bass, well, he died on his birthday. Born July 21st, 1851. Died 1878. He was a train robber and an outlaw gang leader. This thing looks kind of new. Notably, he was a member of a gang of 6 that robbed a Union Pacific train in Nebraska, $60,000, which would have been almost $2 million in today's money. Newly minted gold from San Francisco, and they split it up 6 ways. To date, this is the biggest train robbery that has been committed in the USA. He died as a result of wounds sustained in a gun battle by law enforcement officers, and it says, "A brave man reposes in death here. Why was he not true?" That's a weird inscription. Who's Seaborn? Seaborn Barnes. There's a name you don't hear anymore. Here lies Seaborn Barnes, a member of the Sam Bass gang. Born in Cass County, Texas in 1849, he was known as Seeb, or Nubbin's Colt. July 19th, 1878, so he was part of the shootout. At 4:15 p.m., he was shot through the head as he fled Copel's store located next to Miller's Exchange Bank on Main Street, Round Rock, following the killing of Deputy A.W. Grimes and wounding of Deputy Maurice Moore. The fatal shot was fired by Texas Ranger. He was right bower to Sam Bass. Now, the thing that I was reading up on them, too, nobody knew what these guys looked like. So only one guy in town really knew what the whole gang even looked like back then, because they didn't have photos of them. And he had to kind of point them out. And then once they were pointed out, because they were brought in because one of Sam Bass's gang, his dad was ill, and they sent word, and it was somewhat of a trap to bring him and say his dad would not get the medical attention he needed, even back then, unless he brought Sam Bass in. I was just looking around, and there's my shadow. Let me get out of the way there. But this thing, I don't know. It looks like it's from July 19, 1878, the Great Round Rock Shootout, with a badge right there. So that might have been one of the officers that was killed. The Round Rock Optimist Club is who put up this slave burial ground sign. That is something. This, like I was saying, it looks new. The reason why is because, well, people would come by and they'd want a little souvenir. So if you come here, don't take a souvenir. Just let it be. Everybody can enjoy it. But whatever's left is at the Round Rock Public Library of the original tombstone. So this is just somewhat of a remake of it. But yeah, Sam Bass was only 27 years old, and like I was saying, he was raised by his abusive uncle, and then traveled over through Mississippi, Oklahoma, down to Texas. Then he was doing, he did try his hand at legitimate work, but it just would never pay, or he would lose at gambling. He was racing a horse that he bought. He did really well on that, but he would just always lose the money. He was a bad gambler. And I mean, he burned through his share of the $60,000 in gold from the San Francisco Mint. It's pretty crazy to think about it. All the way back to 1878. A long time. Cool walking history like this. Thought I'd give one more look at old Sam Bass, and I noticed right here when I was stepping, there's somebody else's grave right below me. I'm not sure who that is, but it's just an old stone that's kind of worked its way through with the weather, the hot days and the rains. And here's John Sutton. Not sure if he was part of the gang, but we were walking over here, and this cemetery really has a lot to offer. There's a chicken coop. Look at this mound of dirt. I was not expecting the slave cemetery here. Being from the West Coast, we've had no slaves. Never did. So it's kind of strange for me to see that. It's really part of history. This is L.B. Cluck. I don't know what that says. That's a Buttery? FBIFH 36 Dio. And he's part of the Woodmen of the World Memorial. There's Robert and Martha Cluck, born 1857 and 1862. I didn't have that much time before my flight today out of Austin, so I thought I'd come by here. We were going to go to a couple other places, just didn't have the time. Next time, there's still a lot for me to see out here in Texas. It'll be a lot of fun to do. I'm glad I did. If you ever want to come down here, it's really easy to find. I just pretty much looked up, why this guy's name was on all the streets out here, which is so strange to me, but that's why. The Outlaw Sam Bass, buried right here, Round Rock Cemetery. And with that being said, I appreciate you watching as always. Please consider subscribing. Give it a thumbs up. See you next time. Got a strong wind blowing here too. It is cold. It was in the 70s yesterday, and I think it got close to 20 degrees last night. These old cemeteries are always so interesting to me. Also, leave a comment if you know anything about old Sam Bass or any of these old cemeteries. Look at this. I think this is a good one to end it on. Mother Mary. It's like she's leaning over this grave, and there is no name. Otherwise, I would definitely say this person, but wow. We were walking out, and I was looking at some of these old oak trees. Look at the way this one grows. That limb grows all the way from here, all the way up and around. That is something. It's kind of interesting that you don't see that every day. There's kangaroo over there. But yeah. Okay, we got to get going. I got a flight to catch.